Welcome to the Town of Basalt Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for April 21st. Can we have a call to order, please?
Yes, Bill Marin.
Yo.
Kyle Oberketter is absent. Eric Vozick.
Here.
Rob Levitt is absent. Cindy Hirschfield is absent. Mike Horvath.
Here.
Bob Kaplan.
Here.
And Ben Firestein.
Here.
Thank you. You have a quorum.
Excellent. The first item then is the Riverwalk at the Frying Pan PUD amendment referral. And I will hand it to staff to introduce what's going on.
Yeah, thank you. We have the applicants here this evening. We've got Patrick Raleigh and we've got Kevin Patrick representing the applicant group. And let me please share my screen. Just a second. So this item is a Planning and Zoning Commission referral to the Town Council on a PUD amendment for the Riverwalk Property Owners Association to install a vehicular gate on the Riverwalk parking lot at 227 Midland Avenue. And you can see here on the vicinity map, this is the Riverwalk building on Midland Avenue. And the applicant is proposing to install a gate located about here, as you see on the map. As background, the Riverwalk currently manages parking in their private parking lot with a permitting system, and they wish to install a vehicular gate for more efficient, effective parking management. Process-wise, this is a PUD amendment, and the planning director previously waived the formal P&Z public hearing in the process. But staff felt it appropriate for the P&Z to provide referral comments on the application to the town council. So in reviewing the request, staff identified a couple of discussion items, including compliance with the master plan. As is noted in the staff memo, the 2007 master plan had language discouraging gates. But that language discouraging gates was not carried over into the 2020 master plan. Staff notes that some other private lots may make similar requests for a gate, but each of those individual requests would be considered on their own merits and not precedent. The application was reviewed by the town's referral agencies, and we received several referral agencies providing comments. The fire district required that a Knox box be provided for their access. The police department and the public works department indicated that they need a code to access through the gate in emergency and maintenance situations. And the police department wanted a turnaround for those vehicles that could not access through the gate to be able to turn around. And so the applicants included that in their application, as you can see here on the site plan. In addition, the Public Works Department desired potholing to occur where the gate's going to be installed so that it could be ensured that there are not impacts on utilities in the installation of the gates. And so all of these referral comments have been carried over in draft conditions that are in your packet materials. They include the requirement for the Knox box. They include the requirement for a code for police department and public works to gain access. They include the vehicular turnaround being installed and striped to the satisfaction of the town planner and the town engineer before the gate becomes operational. And then also the potholing requirement is included. So this evening, staff would suggest hearing some comments from the applicant team and then providing discussion. It's not a public hearing, so you could provide comments and discussion on the conditions and the proposed gate. So with that, I will stop sharing my screen and let the applicants share theirs.
You guys got it? Cool. Yep. Okay, cool. For the record, my name is Patrick Raleigh, Raleigh Design Planning. I'm
I'm here with Kevin Patrick, Chairman of the Board of the Riverwalk Association, and also fellow board members Janet Lightfoot and Richard Marshak are also here as well. So thank you for the introduction, James. And the Condominium Association wishes to install this gate to establish, support the established parking rules that we have. We have updated the rules recently. We issue stickers. We have multiple locations of signage throughout the parking lot, and we are still faced with unauthorized parking in our parking lot. We would like to make a statement that this is not an admission or a waiver that a change in the parking enforcement to an installed gate constitutes a substantial amendment to the existing PUD approvals. We believe that the existing PUD approvals, which allocated parking for the units in the Riverwalk, also allowed us to regulate the parking in any means that we see fit. As I said, the parking is currently strictly enforced by a permit only, and we have parking regulations that, as I said, are updated and submitted throughout to the community to look at. You can see also that we have these red signs on that image where parking is by permit only. Violators will be booted or towed. That's a last resort that we have. But those are placed frequently throughout the parking lot, and they tend to be ignored, unfortunately. So we have constant pressure, and particularly in the summer months, that's the time that is the worst. I can come back from a meeting and have no parking in the parking lot, so it is an issue that we need to control our parking. Here's the final plan of the PUD as approved. You can see the PUD consists of two buildings. This is the building that Town Hall. This would be going up the frying pan. So this is the building that houses Monkeys or Karen White interior design. It has, what you're seeing there is a subgrade parking structure. And then where the gun shop and the fishing fly shop is located is in building number 2. Here I can see, give me a laser pointer, that helps, there we go. You can see that the parking that has been allocated by the PUD is largely unchanged currently. Kevin's office is, the water law building is located back here, and of course the river is located at the bottom of the drawing. So the development is largely, it's a mixed-use commercial, office, and residential on the second floor. We have 87 total parking spaces, so that's 63 in the surface. There are 10 guest spots, so the first 7 spots immediately off of Midland are guest parking, and then there's several guest parking spaces throughout the rest of the parking lot. And then we have those 24 subgrade parking spaces underneath building number 1. So the final PUD approved this. These were the number of parking spaces that are required for the parking of the building, and that's what we would like to maintain. One aspect that we should point out, and it made its way into the referral comments, is the public access easement that goes across the swinging bridge, which is located here. And that will be unimpacted by our parking gate, and largely probably unimpacted even through our construction period. And actually, I think the parking gate will go to support and protect that public access easement. So we did recently, as a board, update our parking regulations, make sure that they're up to date and capturing all of the issues that have arisen. We have a vigorous, with our property management team, a vigorous parking outreach program where we're trying to educate owners, we're trying to educate tenants, and also the public that are coming to, try to use our property. So we have all of these permits are required. You can see the red permit, all of the authorized cars would have that. We do periodically go out and verify that most cars have that. And if there is not a sticker shown, they will get a warning. So we are actively trying to police that. As I said, notice violations are issued. We try to also talk to our neighbors. Unfortunately, some of the offices along Midland have seen our parking lot as their kind of de facto parking, so we see people walking frequently day and night across the street. And historically, we have booted cars. Obviously, that's something, the last resort that we would not like to have to get into, but that has happened. It's gotten to the point where we've had to take extreme measures like that. And you can see also this parking, we have the 2-hour parking. Each guest parking spot is individually signed. Unfortunately, all these efforts have not always been as successful. You can see we have standard cars just parked there throughout the day, large work trucks that are coming to frequent job sites or also going to adjacent businesses. I've spoken to people that we all know and say, hey, where are you going? Oh, I'm going over to the Tipsy Trout, and I'd like to park in this parking lot because it's closer. We have cars that park overnight, that winter picture that you can see there. The parking lot is snowplowed, but those cars that are unauthorized have been there overnight, and the snowplow had to work around them. You see this kind of van here. It has an orange violation that was placed on the windshield, but that van had been parked there for some time when this picture was taken, as evidenced by the snow that is built up. And then we also have the odds and ends of somebody dropping off a trailer for fishing or whatever. So it's all of these efforts that we go to try to limit and restrict and enforce our parking are just not enough. So here we have had an existing condition survey made of the property. One of the points that James made about the potholing, we're happy to do that. We have indicated on here where the utilities are located, so there's water running in the street. We will probably be taking electrical out of the corner of this building right here and running it to the corner where the gate will be. But you can see this is an image that I took the other day of looking up the driveway up towards Midland from the parking lot. So that's generally the location of this parking gate. Having taken a look at the functional aspects of the parking, like I said, we have these 7 guest parking spaces here at the front. They'll be slightly reconfigured to provide for the gate, which I'll get into in a second. The gate is located sufficiently in board of our property so that there should be sufficient queuing if, for instance, somebody came and didn't have a gate code or something, that cars pulling in won't be backing out onto Midland. So we think this is really an ideal spot to kind of allow for the function of the guest parking as well as for the queuing that might be required. We have a vehicle turnaround, so currently this will require a little bit of work. Currently there is a bump out in this location, a vegetated bump out, that will be removed. One of the parking spaces then will be converted to a striped turnaround zone, and then we'll have the landscaped bump out, which again is a requirement of our PUD, reestablished directly in line where the automated gate will be. So if somebody comes in, they realize they don't have access to the parking lot, they'll have an ability to turn around safely and get out without creating too much issue. And then beyond the gate, of course, everything remains largely unchanged. Here's the public access easement kind of rolls down that sidewalk right next to the building. This is the actual gate material or equipment that we have. It's rather low profile. It's pretty standard stuff. You can see some of that information. The functionality of it would be that owners of the building would have an RF, a radio frequency sticker that you would place on a headlight or something in the car, and you'll immediately be granted access through the gate if you have that sticker. If you don't have the sticker, they do cost, they're a little bit costly. Each business can have a dedicated gate access on a smartphone. So if somebody pulls in, if it's an employee, they'll know the gate. You can immediately open up the gate, or if there's a visitor that's coming, that's an authorized person that's coming to your business, you can give them that code and the gate will also be accessed. It will be opened. Very standard stuff. Whenever you do a gate, you have to provide a Knox box. A Knox box is a standard in the industry where emergency services will have access to open up the gate whenever they need to. We're happy to give a code to the town of Basalt to access any town features that are in the bottom of the Riverwalk parking. And then Basalt Sanitation District also has some facilities down there. Luckily, Ian and the Basalt Sanitation District has an office in our building, so they'll all automatically have the code, and they were rather supportive and recognized the need for this gate. I did meet with Brooke Stott, Fire Marshal for the Roaring Fork Fire Protection District, or Fire Rescue, as they're now called. And we went through the functionality of everything, the location of everything, and she's written this letter that says that it's an acceptable location to the fire district. Finally, we have an agreement or a permission with St. Vincent's Catholic Church, which is immediately across the street from us. They have been allowed by the board to use the parking lot on Sundays for church services, and we will honor that permission moving forward. The gate can be programmed so that the arm will swing open, for a set period of time on Sundays when they'll be using the parking lot. So, in summation, the benefits: the parking gate will ensure that our PUD approvals can be enforced by us, and that the parking that we need and we're required to provide is available to the PUD. We think that this gate will actually enhance the safety of the area, because we do have frequently Sprinter vans, other people that are car camping down there by the river. I get it, it's an attractive spot, but that is a bit of an issue, a safety issue, not only for residents and tenants of the building, but also people using the public access easement. Also, by controlling some of the parking and the comings and goings in the parking lot, we'll provide some protections for the pedestrians using that access easement and going over the swinging bridge. A lot of school children use it throughout the day, coming from the middle school and the elementary school. So they'll be protected. And then finally, I think this is really kind of bringing what our community has been trying to do for parking and protect our parking and have a formalized, understandable situation from a parking standpoint. This will really help us kind of bring all of the rules and all of the work that we've been trying to do to a head and help us in that regard. So with that, Kevin, would you like to add anything else? Or?
I certainly don't want to take up too much time. Thank you. We've owned one building down there since about 2008, and parking has always been an issue. I would say in the last 18 months, it's gotten to be somewhat out of control. Literally, if you come down in the parking lot past 10 o'clock in the morning, even if you're an owner, the spaces are taken, and I've personally walked around and seen at least 20%, 25% of the cars do not have stickers. There are people that are just using the parking lot. And we don't want to be people that boot. That's kind of a draconian approach. We've tried stickers. We can't find people. There's so many rules and regulations about what you can and cannot do in parking, that this was the cleanest and we thought the best way of administering the parking. And we really have gotten a lot of feedback from our tenants and our business owners that their customers and they cannot find parking spaces during the middle of the day. So it has become a problem that we'd like addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll open up for any questions from the council. Bill?
I have a couple questions. Can bikes get through the parking gate?
They could get through they don't need to go through the parking gate because they have a sidewalk that would be immediately adjacent to that. So yes, you could dismount your bike and walk safely down the sidewalk.
Yeah, it's against the law for grown-ups to ride their bikes on the sidewalk in Basalt.
That's why I say you can dismount.
Yeah. But you can't, because I generally ride through there to get a swinging bridge. And so now you can't. You have to stop, get off, and walk around. But also, Patrick, you have used the word "we" quite a bit. Are you a tenant? Are you a tenant or an owner?
I'm an owner and also a member of the board.
that's good to know. That's all my question.
Okay.
Have you talked to all the owners and tenants about this and it's 100% supportive, or is anyone concerned about privatizing some parking that might be used for their customers?
I have not heard of any concerns about this. Everybody is in support of this. They understand that the issues that we have, again, many of us come back from a site visit or, you know, whatever. There's a whole host of professionals that come and go throughout the day, and it's an issue to come back and not have parking in your parking lot. So no, I have not heard of anyone that has any issues with it, and you know, our board is fully in support of it. So no, I don't think there's any.
We've had several meetings on it, we've had public outreach on it. In addition, this is not gonna be a privatization of a public parking.
Yeah.
This has always been private. It was mandated by the town approvals that it would be private. So all we're doing is just changing a method of parking enforcement.
Who's your current parking enforcement contract with?
Our Silver Mountain Properties is our property management, and we are in frequent contact with them, and they will come out and monitor the parking, as well as members of the board, as Richard has provided. There's also other members of the board that go out and do surveys and see what's going on.
Who does the physical booting and or towing?
Well, we haven't towed or booted, to my knowledge, recently.
Not in, I wanna say, 2 years. We're trying not to do that.
I believe there's some rules, you know, in connection with booting and things like that make it difficult. And obviously, as we've said, that's the last resort that we'd like to get to create that inconvenience. Let's head it off by just preventing people from illegally using it, so we don't have to go down that route.
James, are you aware of any rules associated with the regulation of a private lot?
Not in the town code. I think Patrick is talking about maybe state law, or what are you referring to?
That's what our property management team has advised us, yes, that it's state statute, that there's a notification and a timing period before you can boot. So it's not really probably an effective means to try to dissuade unauthorized parking because of those requirements.
Did you
As a private property owner.
Did you look into any other transportation demand management or parking management systems? Because you're spending a lot of money to rip up this area, to reconfigure it, to avoid utilities, to break up the sidewalk, to pull power, to route posts, to go through a PUD application. I recognize the costs that you are in importing to attempt to do this. So I'm curious what other methods you guys looked at in parking management systems.
We looked at more stringent enforcement. We looked at hiring people to actually administer the lot on a daily, monthly
From an
basis.
OpEx standpoint, yep.
And this is a less expensive approach than having someone stand there
And I'm
8 hours a day.
But is that your only solution, or were you looking
Well,
at?
I'm curious, you mentioned like a TDM measure, like.
Yeah, you're going through the RF stickers, you're putting in all the processes for parking management, and we're still at a gate.
So in other words, you're like saying that we could do a cycle
Camera.
station, or try to have an alternative means of.
I'm just curious if you looked at any other alternative means.
I'm just trying to understand like how that would work, or how
There's
that
a
would help.
difference between being able to identify people that are improperly parked.
Correct,
And enforcing that.
correct.
And the enforcement is what's the difficult avenue in Colorado because of the notice requirements. So we've consulted with our management company, who's consulted with attorneys.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a very laborious, expensive, difficult process.
Understood.
And this is just so much easier and cleaner.
Great. No further questions.
Bob?
Just a technical question. The fire department approved the turnaround. Do they envision turning around inside the parking lot, or, Is that,
They would still have that a possibility or access to do that because they would have clearance to go through the gate and then use, what they would normally do is come down the long run of parking and then do a turn down by the river and stuff. So they would still have that access.
so that backup is just for people who don't have access?
The access is just for, personal vehicles or, normal vehicles to make that,
And how many cars before you get to you say you have queue capacity, is that 2 or 3?
We have, I think 3, but even probably space for a 4th that would be close. But I think 3 would be fully contained within the parking lot with common spacing and things like that. The number of cars going through at any given time is not incredibly high, so it's a rather low traffic volume that's going through. So queuing 3 cars is probably more than enough to keep cars out of Midland.
Thank you.
Questions for staff. The concern of setting a precedent that we're gonna have gates, is it a big request? Does it come up every 5 years, every 10 years?
We've probably had maybe 1 or 2 requests over the last 15 years,
Okay, so not very often.
not very often.
Gotcha. Is it a big concern that this is gonna set a precedent or not that big a concern?
Well, I think every parking lot is a bit different, and they have different characteristics. There are some other private parking lots that may not be set up as well to accommodate a gate in the downtown area. And so, that comes back to staff's comment that each individual parking lot would have to be evaluated kind of on its own
Okay.
merits and not be a precedent item.
Great, thank you. As this is not a public hearing, we'll go into any commissioner comments. We'll start with Bob.
That was my concern as well, is are there other PUDs in the immediate downtown area that this may cause a ripple effect that negatively impacts parking downtown, et cetera. So that's a concern that I have.
Cool. Ben?
I share the applicant's view of the increased parking challenges that I've witnessed in there. I also share fellow Commissioner Marin's opinion that, this is a bikeway down to the public easement. The S-turn configuration sidewalk there is noticeably challenging for my children. And I am a frequent user of this, and my wife previously worked in this building, so definitely familiar with all things associated with this. I have concerns with the 3-point turn configuration and traffic backing up into Midland or requiring someone to back up into Midland. Those guest spots are typically very full. And if we are providing even a striped no parking area, that's a recipe for it being parked and therefore increasing the inability for someone to make that 3-point turn effectively in front of the gate. I think also to what town in of itself just denied its own application in the parcel 9, to have a gate to separate the housing with the public parking here. But this is sort of systemic to the changes and the reduction in parking that the Midland Streetscape project brought, and now people are searching for additional inventory. Those are my comments.
I agree with Bill. I also walk through here, ride my bike through here often. The sidewalk route is not that convenient at all. And so having some sort of, whether it's shortened or a gap in the middle or something that could provide bike access while also limiting access, I think would be positive. Back to a question, would these 7 spots be signed 2-hour guest parking?
I'm sorry, say that again, Mike?
The 7 spots outside the gate, would those be
As they currently are today.
Just 2-hour guest
They-
parking?
That's right, yeah,
Okay.
we have an image of that
Yeah, that's what I
slide,
thought.
right there.
Okay.
Yeah, so that would contain that, and to your comment, the striped area would have a no parking turnaround only, similar to what's happened on Midland.
Look at the middle of Midland.
Looking at that auto turn, it looks like they probably sideswipe the car next to them.
Which, I'm sorry, what's that?
Your auto turn exhibit?
Yeah, it looks like the front end of that car sideswipes to the parked car. It extends into the parking spot. So I don't know what vehicle you're using, and if that really,
I mean, actually, it's a standard vehicle, it's a wider, it's a parking spot currently. So it's 8.5, 9 feet wide. I think those are actually 9 feet wide. And what we're showing in a turnaround would be like 11. So you're actually gaining, it's a wider than standard parking spot that you would be turning into. So if you can park a car into those spots, it's no different than that type of a movement that you're.
Just ran a bad auto turn.
just something to consider if you're gonna put it
Sure.
in. The car in the bottom, is that car able to get out of that parking spot?
That would be a standard parking spot, yeah. It's a parking spot currently.
Get out and turn back towards the gate and then exit Midland facing forward. That's what we're asking.
Yes. The turnaround zone could also be, if you had a concern about that, could be relocated to a different location there. But that is currently a parking area, and we believe they can make that movement. Again, it's kind of a standard parking lot.
Mike, are you asking about the parking space closest to the island?
Closest to the gate.
This gate, and
Backing
whether or
out
not
of
a car
that.
can pull out of that spot and turn around. Yeah.
Especially with the bulb of the tree and the reduction in the drive aisle width.
Be tight.
Yeah, you'd probably have to make a 3-point turn, you know, yeah.
I don't, if they accommodate bikes, I guess.
I have some comments to make. First off, I voted for the non-gate article in both the 07 and 20 master plans, and I was overruled in the second one, so I definitely have, or the latest one, the current operable master plan. So I definitely have some thoughts about this, going way, way back. And I'd also like to say that, you know, at the end of the day, it's your right to build this. You know, you have to ask us because it's a PUD, but, you know, there's nothing really standing in your way from doing this. But I don't like it. You know, it's just not who we were. I'll get back to that one later, but I would like to say that Frida Wallison, the original developer, would love this. She would just love the hell out of this, because she used to brag that Dick Cheney was her best friend. And
I know Frida. I was
Yeah.
a Rotarian with her, so.
yeah, yeah. Anyway, and also, in feeling negative towards this, I really feel it kind of honors the whole small town character thing, which I've railed against many times on many meetings about it being abused, but in a lot of ways, this is definitely not that. It is not the small town character, and people, probably no one here would even know these people, like Jim Pauza and Steve Solomon would just hate this. They opposed the Roaring Fork Club because it was a gated community. And I opposed them on virtually everything they believed in. But on this particular case, especially right downtown and in a place where I ride through all the time, it just feels wrong to me. You know, it's like a gated community is not who we were as a community, but it is sadly very much who we are now. You know, we are now a town of second homeowners and trust funders. Those are both my neighbors, by the way. A second homeowner on one side and a trust funder on the other. And I bet 3/4 of my subdivision are second homeowners. And it just feels wrong. But again, they have the right to do this, so I'm not gonna vote against it. But I feel sad for where we're going as a town. That's it.
I don't feel as strongly as the other gentleman. I don't view it like a gated community of keeping people out, even though, Bill, I understand the sentiment of what you're saying. I wish there were better parking arrangements. I do understand it's overflow from what we decided to do on Midland, but at the same time, there are other alternatives that we've afforded on Midland that a lot of the people can afford to do. So I think you've done your homework. I think you've kind of answered the questions. Yes, being nice to the community and allowing bikers to go through would be lovely. But you don't have to do that. It's not part of the agreement. It's just a nice neighborly, small town community thing to do if it's available. So I don't have any issues with what you're proposing personally.
I'd like to add one thing if
Please.
you're done. I would like it if you could find a way to make the gate shorter so you could ride a bike through it.
Sure, we could take a look at that. I mean, it's, the access is for pedestrians and
Yeah.
not for bikes, but we can take a look at that.
Yeah, because I am older than 12. And
I've seen you ride a bike.
Is that, once my daughter turns 12, I gotta kick her off the bike on a sidewalk?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Basalt's finest could write her a ticket. And you.
So we're at that point. Do we want to entertain a motion? Gentlemen, what would we like to do?
I'll vote for it, but I won't make it.
Yeah, motion to pass the application on to town council with the request that bike access is provided within the gate function,
As per
or
the staff.
gate layout, as per staff's memo.
First, do we have a second?
Second motion.
You want a roll call or you want to take a vote?
Yeah, let's go roll call.
Okay.
We'll go with Bill.
Yes.
We'll go with Eric,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
and Ben.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Good
Appreciate
luck.
it. Appreciate the comments.
Your old roommate, Bob.
Oh, he should have recused himself.
I feel, I know, I've done this other times as well, you know.
In my mind.
I hear your comment. I don't feel that way, but I get the spirit of what you're saying.
If we, as a town, wanted to make it not right, we would have put it in the master plan.
Yep. As we resettle, we're gonna jump into our next item, which is Eagle County referral on 257 East Valley Road, application to construct a storage and warehouse facility. And I will leave it to staff.
Give me 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Ooh, storage facilities. I'll give Bob 30
Look at that, you gotta be official now.
Yeah, and in my office, I bought a Riverwalk. It's on my
Oh, sorry, I thought you were done.
Nah, it's all good.
cabinets, my list.
Just waiting for something.
It's already a storage facility.
Like a landscape yard, I feel like.
Yeah, they got like covered storage. They're parking
Yeah.
shit in. This is exactly what our valley needs.
Yeah, more storage in homes.
Can't live in storage, man.
Should I kick him out? Should I kick him out? Bob, are we good to continue forward?
Yes.
All right.
Give it a second.
Good evening. Carlton Henry, Planner 2 with the Town of Basalt. Here to introduce a referral from Eagle County for a subdivision exemption application within the town of Basalt's 3-mile planning area. The town of Basalt was given the opportunity to provide referral comments for this application on a development application, or on this development application rather, located at 257 Valley Road. This site is generally to the west of the Elgebel Road and Highway 82 intersection, and north of Crown Mountain Park, immediately south of the Highway 82 right-of-way. I will just take a moment to note that staff received some additional information about this application today, and I'll just lead with that because it will color our discussion here this evening. The application that staff received and the understanding that staff had was that this application would be the town of Basalt's opportunity to provide referral comments on the associated development application. In the interim, Eagle County staff had determined and has notified the applicant that further development applications will be required, which will be noticed for and will provide the town of Basalt another opportunity to provide referral comments. So the draft conditions and referral comments that you see here focus on not only the subdivision exemption application, but also the associated development proposal. And so staff will be tacking a little bit differently here to lead Planning and Zoning Commission to only address the subdivision exemption proposed here. For a little bit of background, this site, as noted, immediately south of Highway 82, was formerly a filling station. However, due to issues with the use on the site, Eagle County, the owner at the time, the town of Basalt, and other interested parties came together to help close that business. And since 2007, the site has primarily remained vacant, with several operators, including most recently a contract yard for a tree service business in the valley. This subdivision exemption application seeks to legalize a non-conforming parcel per Eagle County land use regulations. This step is necessary before Eagle County could approve any building or construction on this site. That would also be the case that legalization of the non-conforming parcel would be required ahead of a land use application, such as I mentioned will be required for this site. Because it's already here, I will note that the applicant is proposing the development of 2 single-story storage buildings. But as mentioned, staff would recommend that Planning and Zoning Commission limit discussion on that development proposal and the development materials included as part of your packet and linked herein as well. James, do you have anything else to add here?
Yeah, I think I would just add that we had conversations with Eagle County staff today, and they made the request of the town and town staff that really we concentrate in this application and our referral comments on simply the subdivision exemption. As Carlton mentioned, they've indicated to the applicant that they need to go through a larger development review process on the actual development of the site. So we've heard from Eagle County staff, and as Carlton noted, staff would suggest if you don't really have any comments on the legalization of the parcel, that P&Z could simply adjust the letter to say we have no comments on the legalization of the parcel, and then you'll get a future opportunity to actually provide comments on a development application if they submit one.
I would note as well that the one of the members of the applicant team, Michael Forrest of Ludlow Property Group, is online and has been promoted to a panelist. So, Michael, if you have anything that you would like to say, we've got you online here, and you're welcome to take a minute or two to provide any additional detail as you see fit.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think to James's point, there's really not much right now. There, you know, without getting into the weeds of the process with Eagle County, it's been a little bit of a moving target, and including today. So yeah, tonight we're really just holding comments. We're really going to propose something potentially even slightly different than we were initially proposing. So to James's point, this is just the legalization of the lot. I don't know why when, you know, CDOT and all the municipalities and the property owner at the time, which was not me, when it was a gas station, when that gas station was closed because of the concerns about safety, because the gas station basically had an entrance onto Highway 82 directly. And that became dangerous, and the property was closed essentially, but they didn't legalize the lot back then. So we're doing that now. That's all I think. James, if anybody has any questions, I'm here.
And just for more framework, this is the old Fitzsimmons gas station property for those that knew it.
It was an Arco,
What'd you say?
Arco station.
Arco station, yeah.
Thank you, Michael. Does staff wish to, excuse me, does the commission wish to have a big discussion? Do you want to accept the letter as is with the changes that staff has recommended?
I do have a question. This is kind of a technical question, but is the curb cut and access permit that the gas station used to have onto Highway 2, has that been vacated? Or?
It was proposed to be vacated and is included in the site plan that was included as part of your packet tonight. So if you zoom in on it, you can see that it's proposed to be vacated. That will be covered at a future date when they go forward with the subdivision.
But it's still technically a live access permit with
It is.
CDOT.
That's my understanding.
Yeah.
Yep.
Any other questions?
How does development in this area and Eagle County view development in this area and the intersection at Elgibel Road?
So
There's been, I think, it seems like we've developed beyond the capacity of that intersection, and now we're adding more, and so I didn't know if there's a path forward there, or
Yeah.
capital requirements, or what that looks like.
it sounds like the applicant and Eagle County have had extensive conversations regarding this issue. It's not a surprise to anybody probably in this room right now that there are continued issues with the Elgibel and Highway 82 intersection and the capacity at that intersection. Our master plan, as noted in the original draft comments, identifies this site due to its location for service commercial. And it's our understanding that between the applicant and Eagle County, that Eagle County has directed the applicant to select a use that will not increase the vehicle trips in the area and further threaten the service at that intersection. Again, those conversations have not been extensive on our end, but that's my understanding of where the conversation has been between the applicant and the county.
And we just heard from the applicant that he's potentially changing
Yes.
the use, question mark?
I'm sorry.
No, not changing the use, but just changing the process of the application process is changing.
It was our understanding that previously, the application had been slated for an administrative process for approval, and that as of the last day or two, that the applicant was informed that there would be a full application with noticing and a decision to be made at the Roaring Fork Valley Planning Commission.
Okay.
That's our understanding from Eagle County staff as well in our conversations today.
Understood.
Other questions? If there's no questions, how would we like to proceed?
I have a couple comments to make.
Sure.
I'm going to make some abstract comments about the site in general, not germane to what is proposed on there right now. But I'd like to say that, first off, this is the first thing people see when they arrive in Basalt from the west. So if they're looking at the back of a building that is a storage building, that's a thing to consider. We're not talking about that now, but that's for everyone to keep in the forefront of their mind. But that's what you'll see as it's proposed now. But also, there has been affordable housing proposals on this site in the past, and it is the closest partial to a BRT stop and as such a TOD site. And to see it go to storage, I feel is, again, sad but legal. But, you know, it's their right to do this, but that's just my feelings, and we're not here to talk about my feelings. So, that's my comment.
Yeah, I have some.
If I could, this is Mike Forrest, if I could just, make one comment about the look and the feel is, we built that Snowmass self-storage on Highway 82 at the Conoco gas station at the Snowmass Creek Road intersection between Midstate Motors and the post office there. And for those of you that are familiar with it, we built an A-frame building. We clad it in natural cedar wood. So we had the same, sort of thoughts here. We haven't really fully designed the look and the feel, but that's something that, is at the forefront of our mindset as well as we, move this through the process.
Thank you. Bob, if your comments are going to be about the development proposal, I would ask you to focus on the issue tonight, which is more about this referral than getting into the weeds about what might be coming down the road, which we'll have a chance to address later on. Okay, thank you. I don't want to just stifle conversation, just, we can get in the weeds pretty easily on that.
But I do share Bill's concerns that it's the entry to town. That area is not attractive, and this is certainly better than a yard, a jobber's yard.
Mm-hmm.
But it would be nice to have something that helps the entry to town.
Fair. If there are any more comments, great. If not, do we want to address the letter that's being asked of us?
I'll make a motion to accept the letter as drafted or changed as staff sees fit for the.
As per
James.
James's comments, or?
Yeah, and
No,
staff's suggestion was to, if you don't really have comments on the legalization of the parcel, to direct staff to send a letter that says we don't have any comments on the legalization of the parcel.
Yeah,
And then
that.
kind of save the development review comments for.
That's kind of where I was going with that, just to talk about the part that's germane to we're doing tonight.
Yeah.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Ben seconds. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck, Michael.
Thank you. I'll definitely take those concerns and talk to you guys more. Thank you.
Yes, Michael. Our next item then is a public hearing on code amendments to the Town Code Chapter 16 and 17 in regards to affordable housing. And again, I will leave it to staff.
Great. Again, Carlton Henry, Planner 2 with the Town of Basalt, here to discuss and open a public hearing for land use code update related to expedited review and compliance with State Proposition 123. With me today, I also have Jess Garrow and Riley Timmons with Design Workshop, who will, in a few short minutes, provide a presentation and further detail on the Prop 123 efforts. For a little background, as all of you know, we are undergoing a land use code update currently. However, as an aside to that, currently the town also has an opportunity to qualify or become eligible for Prop 123 funding through Proposition 123, which was passed several years ago. In order to become eligible for Prop 123 funding, the town is required to both provide proof of affordable housing development, which aligns with the number of units as identified in the town's housing needs assessment, and additionally incentivize the construction or protection of affordable housing through an expedited review process. Municipalities which qualify by the end of the year may qualify for future Proposition 123 funding in commitment cycles. DOLA has provided additional incentives for municipalities which adopt the Prop 123 expedited review process before the end of the calendar year. Should the town of Basalt adopt the expedited review process before the end of June, we would qualify for $45,000 in local planning capacity grants. That does not require a local match. So as I mentioned, already engaged in the update to the land use code, staff and the design workshop team have elected to prioritize the drafting and adoption of the expedited review process aside from the rest of the land use code update. For a little background on the review process, the proposed code amendment requires review and recommendation by the Planning and Zoning Commission, as it is a part of the land use code, and this recommendation to Town Council for decision pursuant to Town Code 16267 amendment procedures. Staff has provided a draft code amendment to P&Z attached here for your consideration. One other thing, or just for a little bit of background, which the design workshop folks will get into, the state requires that developments which consist of at least 50% affordable housing units qualify for an expedited review. The state enables municipalities to lower these percentages to further incentivize affordable housing development. At this time, staff is not recommending that this percentage be decreased. Similarly, the state requires that expedited review be made available for rental projects where the qualified units are deed restricted to 60% AMI and below. The state requires that expedited review be made available for for sale projects where the qualified units are deed restricted to 100% and below. Staff is not currently recommending that these percentages be increased at this time. The Land Use Code Working Group, a group of citizens and industry professionals supporting the Land Use Code, has also recommended maintaining the state standard, but we felt it would be appropriate to introduce kind of those other options which the state gives to municipalities to customize or rather provide some local color to this opportunity, we'll call it. Staff recommends that the Planning and Zoning Commission hear public comment, as this is a public hearing, discuss the draft code amendment, and provide a recommendation to Town Council regarding the code amendment. You may also suggest changes to the draft language as presented. Planning and Zoning Commission may recommend approval, recommend denial, or recommend approval with amendments. And with that, I will open it up to the design workshop folks.
Getting good with that, Carlton.
Sorry. Oh, great. Thanks for having us. We have a few slides that we wanted to share just to go into a little bit of additional detail related to Prop 123. And so Riley is going to pull up her screen. As Carlton mentioned, this is part of a larger code amendment process, which we've talked with you all about in the past. And we are continuing to work through the the overall project schedule, but wanted to meet some of the timelines that the state has identified, and so pulling this piece out. So yeah.
Great. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you all. We're looking forward to sharing a little bit more on the Prop 123 work tonight. I'm Riley Timmons. I am a project manager and associate with Design Workshop, and I have Jessica here with me as well, who is our principal in charge on the project. We provided a update back in February, albeit brief, and just wanted to give a little bit of context of where we are in the code drafting process tonight. So we're still sitting in that kind of 50% code draft. We have furthered some of the concepts and priority items with the working group and with staff, and are launching the project website and community engagement this week, and we'll have some additional work upcoming as well. Really wanting to dig into a little bit of background on Prop 123, in addition to providing some context on applicability for Basalt before getting into the proposed code language, and then following with some project next steps. So for those that maybe are less familiar, Prop 123 brought forward in 2022 created the State Affordable Housing Fund, which is intended to fund affordable housing development across Colorado through DOLA and the Colorado Office of Economic Development and International Trade. These programs are overseen by the Colorado Housing and Finance Authority. Prop 123 has made available approximately $300 million in affordable housing funding since 2022. The funds are available through grants and loans to nonprofit agencies, community land trusts, nonprofit and for-profit developers, and local governments. Initially passed in 2022, Prop 123 was signed into law in June of 2023, with initial funds transferred into the program that July. Starting in November of 2023, local governments were able to begin filing commitments to the program. In order to qualify for the Prop 123 program, local governments must file a local government affordable housing commitment, which includes a requirement to increase the affordable housing by 3% a year and include an expedited review process for affordable housing developments that meet the program requirements. Additionally, it's important to note that there are some stipulations for meeting these requirements that are granted to rural resort communities, allowing for towns to petition DOLA to utilize different percentages of area median income. Projects are only eligible to receive this funding if they're within a municipality, county, or sovereign tribal land area that has successfully filed a commitment with the Division of Housing. So the commitment outlines a jurisdiction's goal to increase affordable housing stock above an established baseline through December 31st of this year, 2026, after which a new commitment cycle will commence and remain open through 2029. For Basalt to remain eligible, the town needs to meet their committed affordable housing increase from the submitted baseline, and also codify the expedited review process of 90 days for housing projects that meet the state's affordability requirements, which Jessica will walk us through in a little bit more detail.
Thanks. So we're really here today to talk through the expedited review process for Prop 123. And so, as Carlton said, want to just reiterate, Prop 123 establishes specific thresholds for a local government to adopt that identifies what projects would be eligible. It requires rental housing at or below 80% of AMI. A local government, particularly in rural jurisdictions, could increase that if you wanted to. For sale at or below 100% AMI, again, could increase that if you wanted to. And as Carlton said, the recommendation from the working group is to go with the state standard of 60% AMI for rental projects and 100% AMI for sale projects. And that's typical for a lot of the communities that are moving through this process. So again, wanting to get this completed by June 30th in order to be eligible for additional local government matching that is an incentive to move through this process more quickly. So what applies in terms of an application type? So Prop 123 very specifically identifies what type of application is eligible and what type isn't. So any type of site plan review, a development plan review, a variance process, conditional or special use, and then a permitted use all qualify. And what that means is if someone is coming forward with an application that includes 50% of the residential units as affordable housing based off of those thresholds, the local government must move forward with that application within 90 days. And so what is included in the language, which we'll dive into in a few more slides, is an administrative review to meet that threshold. I didn't mention, but really important, PUDs that don't constitute kind of an updated rezoning are also eligible for this expedited review. What is not included in an expedited review are things like subdivision and annexations and rezonings. So mixed-use projects applies to 100% residential projects as well as mixed-use projects as long as 50% of the residential units meet the definition of affordable housing, again, those AMI target numbers. And that decision has to be made within 90 days. These are the pieces that are not eligible, just to be very clear about it. So as I said, annexation amendments, initial zonings or rezonings, and then things like comprehensive plan amendments, things that are not really actually related to development, for instance. So proposed code language is, again, very reflective of what the state standards are. We've identified rental housing units at 60% of AMI and below. For sale units at 100% AMI and below are eligible for this process. Again, as long as 50% of the units meet that standard. It very specifically calls out the sections in the code that do not apply. So annexation, rezoning, appeals, and subdivision is what we've identified in the code language. The other piece that's important is that an applicant can choose to opt out of the process if for some reason they wanted to go through a more complete review process with Planning Commission and Town Council. So there's an option for that. So what is that review process that needs to be completed? So it starts with a pre-application that is before the 90-day shot clock starts. So you need to come in with to have a meeting with the town planner and get a pre-application. Once you then submit based off of that pre-application summary, the staff has an opportunity to review for completeness. Once the application is deemed complete, the applicant would get a letter saying you're complete, and that's the day that the 90-day shot clock starts at. And so all of the reviews on any referrals and any public noticing and decision have to be made within that 90-day time frame. So because that is so quick, it's suggested that it be an administrative review process in order to meet that 90-day timeline. Go to the next slide. We can skip this one. Next one. So this is also very important. If for some reason the application required multiple review steps, there's a 90-day shot clock for each of those review steps. So each application type is subject to that. So a land use review process would be subject to that 90-day shot clock. The subsequent building permit would be subject to a new 90-day shot clock. So that is an important piece to understand in terms of just like the breadth of how many applications are impacted, but you've got a couple of different times. You don't have to from the moment of land use submission, you don't have to issue a permit within 90 days. You've got the land use 90 days and then the permit 90 days. If an application were to, applicant were to withdraw, you start a new 90-day shot clock. Next slide. The other piece that is important is within the state statute, there's an opportunity for timeline extension. So an applicant can request an extension of that 90-day, or a town can implement a 90-day extension. And that's a really important protection for the town to make sure that you're not getting bad applications. So someone might come in with a complete application, and as town staff is reviewing it, realize we need additional information, they haven't responded to the review criteria. You can essentially put a pause on that application and say, we need you to rectify this. And so that is outlined in the code section as well as in the state statute. In addition, one of the pieces that we're talking about within the larger code update process is option for expedited review thresholds for 100% deed restricted housing, which I think we won't spend too much time about tonight, and we'll come back to you with the larger code process. But review process is a really important tool in your toolbox to encourage deed restricted or affordable housing. And so we want to be thinking not just the state is making us do this in order to be eligible for money, but there are actually some structural changes that we can make to the land use code to really encourage the things that we want. And so we'll be continuing to have those conversations. I think with that, we're happy to answer any questions.
Questions?
I have some questions. What is the process for adjusting the AMI floor?
Yeah, I can answer that.
Yeah.
So just to, I guess, speak to Eric and Bob here, this was a little bit of a conversation at the working group, but the hope is to start with the state suggested AMI levels and give staff a little bit of time to see how the initial rollout of this program goes. You know, whether we review that at the end of the summer while still working through the land use code update, or whether we see in 6 months or a year or 2 years that it's not having the intended effect of incentivizing local affordable housing development, we can come back and bring a code amendment that would then just address those AMI changes.
So it's a code amendment to
Be a
adjust
code
those?
amendment,
Okay.
correct.
That was
And
my question.
You have that ability within state statute. Again, you're allowed to what they call exceed the baseline. And so if you were to increase the AMI, you can increase beyond those thresholds. You cannot decrease. So you couldn't go to a 40% AMI or something. You would have to go up.
But just to state, it was, both Ben and I are on this committee, and it was our
And Mike.
consensus that was, and Mike, you were there too. Sorry, it's okay. But that we wanted to maintain those floors to start.
Yeah, I think we all agree
Yeah.
where we are going as a community and the reality of what people need, but in the interest of understanding staff as a resource and their time as a resource and the shot clock as a challenge, it was our justification per staff's recommendation. Do you have any more questions?
Oh, yes, I do. My next question is, it doesn't appear this way in looking at the draft language, but the ADU component of this is not part of this, because you know what my reservations were on that
Yeah,
one issue.
does not include ADUs.
Okay, good, because that has a broader discussion than I wanted to. And also, as far as the completeness review, I see the efficacy of that, and I agree with, having that as a backstop to prevent junk applications or incomplete applications. But also, on the other hand, community development in Aspen uses that as their planning hammer, that completeness review, where it could take a year to get your completeness. When it used to take you a year to get through the planning department, now it takes you a year just to get your completeness review. So it's still the same thing in that type of regime. I'm not saying that we'll do that, but it could happen, and so I think we have to guard against using that as a tool.
Yeah, and I would agree with you. So through our drafted code language, we would have the ability to require pre-application, and the hope would be that with good faith actors coming in for development applications that would qualify for the expedited review, that we would have folks come in ready for a complete application when they submit. However, there would also be a requirement of 15 working day response for completeness review from staff.
I guess what I'm saying is like to look at what Aspen does and not do that.
Bill, we
Jessica
understand,
is well aligned for that.
I understand.
we understand your concern, and that's not the
You all know
intent.
what I'm
That's-
saying, yeah.
That's not really our practice.
I know it's not, but it, I just want to guard against that, creeping evil. That's all my questions.
James needs a hammer.
I don't need a hammer.
Do you remember the 1041 review that they used to do? They used to have a thing called the 1041 review.
The 80/40 Green Line review is what
Oh,
they.
that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 1041 was like an environmental review, and the planning staff at the time called it their planning hammer. So that's where that word came from.
Questions?
If adopted, is it the 45,000 an automatic? Are we an automatic recipient, or is there a selection?
I think it
Process.
just goes through the regular grant process through DOLA and a selection through that.
Okay.
We've been in some initial conversations with some folks from DOLA, and they seem to think that we're where we need to be as far as the proof of affordable housing development, meeting the number, and then we're following the state statute pretty much as closely as you can for the expedited review process. And it's my understanding that $45,000, if you can be creative, what you have local planning needs for, you can get that $45,000 with no local match.
Understood. No more questions on my end?
I have one more question. As far as the housing needs assessments, there have been housing needs assessments here before, and they presented shocking numbers of housing that's needed up, from Glenwood to Aspen. And there have been Basalt electeds and town managers who called that number aspirational. And so I want to know what housing assessment we're using.
So I can add a little bit of detail there. So the second round of targets that the state is setting can either come from a housing needs assessment that's been accepted by the state, can also come from a percentage of approved building permits within your town. And that percentage, I believe, is 10 or 15%. But there's something of a negotiation between DOLA and what would be the town of Basalt here to find that right number. Part of the complexity is that you don't want to cherry pick a given year or a set of projects that has artificially inflated the number of building permits that's gone out. So there's a 3-year, set of data or average that is taken, and you take 15%, I believe is what it is out of that. Yeah.
So there's not a document right now that says Basalt needs this many housing, Glenwood needs this much housing.
No, but we did the calculation based on the last couple of years permit and figured in that percentage. And so over the next 3 years, we calculated that it would be in the realm of 16 to 18 units of deed restricted housing.
Yeah, because the last housing needs assessment that I saw had the number in hundreds.
Well, I mean, that's what our housing needs assessments
No,
say
for
our demand is, but for the DOLA program, the Prop 123 program.
Oh, so
there's-
they have their own set of numbers. That's where I was going with this. They have their own set of numbers of what their housing needs assessment is.
Yeah.
That's where I was going with
And to
that.
meet that 18 units, that could be town-built units, it can also be private sector-built units, as long as they, again, are deed restricted and meeting the AMI thresholds in the,
For the last 3 years, from 2023 to 2026, our requirement was 5 units, and so we've more than met that.
Yeah, because when you have numbers that are in the hundreds, people's eyes glaze over and do nothing.
Sure.
So,
How much has our affordable housing stock grown in the last year? Are we above that 3% level?
Our affordable housing stock over the last 3 years is probably in the realm with the projects getting finished right now. BCC, the Emma Flats development, we are more than the 18 units, so it'd be more than that percentage that was required by DOLA for the next 3 years. Because we have 17 units in BCC, we've got 4 Stotts Mill duplex units, and we've got 6 units ultimately in Emma Flats that's finishing up, so,
In the pipeline?
yeah.
2 questions. This goes in line with any future code amendments that the town may want to increase that level. We didn't touch on this in the code work, but the vesting rights is a 3-year period for a project. If a project is not active but in that vested period and the town chooses to adjust the AMI percentage up or down, will those projects that are currently vested have to reapply? Are they allowed to then go through the newest adoption? Are they grandfathered into the old requirement? If they try to seek a higher affordability rate to make their performance better, how does that process work?
I can't, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that the town in the past, when we've had situations where a project has vested rights and it's in their vested rights period, and there are code amendments done, we've allowed them to take advantage of those code amendments if they're beneficial.
Great.
Yeah.
Because the shot clock's already gone through, right? They've already gone through that expedited process and taken care of that. No, I get that. I just wanted to get clarity on that portion of the vested rights.
I would say similarly, but on the converse, that you could not remove vested rights should the bar be raised.
Absolutely.
Right?
It's more of, if we're setting the bar right now at 60 and then we bump it up to 80 and someone's in that vested right period, can they take advantage of building 80% AMI rentals? From the town's perspective, we did not talk about floodplain management and the 90-day shot clock. Does that concern staff at all? As a part of that review process, understanding we're going through a third party, understanding the complexities associated with the no-rise modeling, the LOMRs, the CLOMRs, and how we're going to deal with that?
That's a good question. We could specify in the code language that if you have to go through an ESA floodplain review, that you're not eligible for the 90-day.
Does that then also go through just any form of ESA where there might be RECs or environmental hazards or something else that increases that shot clock, right? The goal is to make you permittable or approvable, and it's not up to you all as staff if we're bringing in a third party.
Yeah, it's usually just the floodplain review aspect to it. The other aspects of ESA review typically don't push out review timelines significantly, but
I agree
the
with that.
floodplain
If you have to do a LOMAR or a CLOMAR,
You're dead in the water.
you're not gonna make it.
Even if you have to do no-rise modeling, I mean, it could be 90 days of back and forth to make sure that we're not affecting any insurable structures.
And that's also where the timeline extension potentially comes into play.
Is it applicable in that sense?
So I'll have to defer to James and Carlton, but you can do a 90-day extension to allow a review period by an agency that requires review and approval by the project. So if it's If it's a required agency reviewing it, you can pause that shot clock and kind of get an extension. If it's a referral process, you can't.
So does Matrix count as an agency or a referral process?
No, they're referral, so.
Okay.
So I think that's a good comment, and we probably should consider the potential to say if you have to go through a floodplain ESA review, that you're not eligible for the expedited process. And,
Or
you
you
know,
can
that's
start the
limited.
clock later on when the floodplain issues are absolved.
But yeah, is that in direct conflict with the state
Yeah,
requirements?
I think that if you meet the requirements of the 50% of the units in the AMI, you go through this process, regardless of if you're in a floodplain or not. What some communities, I think Golden has done this, their completeness review also includes technical completeness and referral. So they've, I think, pushed up against the legal bounds of this state law to incorporate some additional things in their completeness review before the 90 days starts. So I think, and we'd need to talk through with the town attorney.
Yep.
For anything within a floodplain, we could add some language that says that
No rise modeling.
review has to
That-
happen.
That makes a lot of sense, that those technical components be part of the
Yeah,
completeness.
that's fine.
And I'm sure whatever Golden does, because Golden has as severe
Some similar
issues as we do.
yeah.
I just want to make sure we're capturing that line, and I think it's absolutely appropriate if we're putting it, no rise modeling, no insurable structures are affected as a part of your technical completeness, as the only caveat to that 15-day hammer that we want to avoid, right? That's their intention.
And I think that's a very good point.
Yeah, definitely a good point.
I know these are new standards. Have we had any private applications that would have met these criteria in the past several years?
No, I would say the only
ISIS
one,
maybe?
well, the only one I can think of that probably would have potentially met the standards was the Roaring Fork Apartments,
Yeah, so,
because they were a CHAFA project, and so their AMI levels are much lower than the regular.
I know the idea is to jumpstart this. I was just wondering if we've seen it.
No.
Other questions? So, this is a public hearing. I will open it up for public comments at 7:32. There's no one in the room. James, do we want to go through the online? I don't see anybody up there.
Yeah, if you're online and would like to make comments, you can log into the town's website and go to agenda packets and the P&Z packet for April 21st and log in to provide comments. We'll give about a minute here to see if anybody jumps on.
Stopwatch.
I'm watching we used to have the Jeopardy.
That's really helpful. That's real old school. It's acting like a school clock.
School kid, they can't read that anymore.
No, I know.
They don't know how to read that.
I was talking to my kids about giving time in like quarter after, quarter till. They have no idea. They have no idea.
I think you're good to close.
As there's no public comments, we will close the public hearing at 7:33. And are there any commissioner comments?
I think this is a great thing, and just as long as we guard against some of the points that, Ben brought up, and I was bringing up about the completeness trap. I think, and I'm sure we can do it. It's not the ethic of the town of Basalt to do that, but who knows where we go in the future. But as long as we're not there now, I'm in full agreement with the entire draft language.
No further comment. Motion to approve the draft language.
Second.
James, you want roll call or just all in favor?
All in favor for this one.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries 5-0.
Okay.
Great work, ladies.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
See you soon. Thank you, they're fun.
Are you doing the wildlife resiliency too?
We're not. We're
Okay.
gonna get out of your hair.
They're gonna run away
Not
quick
touching that
from
one.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item then is a public hearing on code amendments to Town Code Chapters 16 and 18 in regards to wildfire resiliency standards. Staff.
Yeah, thank you. This is a public hearing, as you noted, on code amendments to the state wildfire urban interface code, which is the WUI. As some background, the state Senate Bill 25-142 was approved that required local jurisdictions to adopt code that meets or exceeds the state requirements in their adopted state wildfire code. And this wildfire code was just adopted here in the last year by the state. It mainly addresses structure hardening and landscape buffers for wildfire protection. The town building official and town planning staff have spent quite a bit of time trying to figure out, how to implement this, given that it's a state mandate. We've been in quite a few different kind of sessions with other jurisdictions that have been struggling with how to implement it and mandate it. The town building official has provided kind of a markup that's included in your packet materials that would require a state board variance approval. And so he thinks that those amendments would be kind of more reasonable from a structure hardening standpoint, in that materials would be more available under his kind of marked up regulations, and they'd be more consistent with what we currently have. However, because it would need a state board variance and we're under a timeline, staff went to town council with a work session in March, and the council directed staff to bring forward amendments as were proposed and required by the state wildfire code without the building officials' amendments. And they also directed staff to kind of concurrently put together an application for a state board variance for the building officials' markups. So staff is kind of carrying forward in those two tracks currently. And so the code amendments that you have in front of you are basically the code amendments that the state adopted and are requiring local jurisdictions adopt. And as I noted, they're identified on page 73 of your packet, but it's got the structure hardening requirements that are above and beyond the current requirements we have in the state or in the town code. And then there's these landscaping and site planning requirements that relate to landscaping buffers. So you've got this ignition zone 1, which is areas that are 0 to 5 feet from a structure, and it's got requirements related to removing plantings. You can't do new trees in that area, and if you have certain mature trees, they might have to be removed. And then you've got kind of a wider zone, which is this zone 2, which is 5 to 30 feet from a building. And so you have to kind of remove dead materials. You have to prune branches and maintain tree spacing. And then you've kind of got this expanded zone, which is 30 to 100 feet from a building. We've got limited lots in the town of Basalt that have that 30 to 100 feet. Some of the Aspen Junction stuff has the 30 to 100. But so these are what the state is mandating right now. We were supposed to have the code adopted by April 1st. And then there's a July 1st implementation deadline. So we're we're looking to meet that, but we're going to go this additional kind of concurrent route where we can see if we can get a state variance to basically go with the similar code to what we have now on wildfire mitigation. So this evening, I'd be happy to answer any questions. This is a public hearing because it's a code amendment review, and so staff would suggest asking questions, taking public comments, and then discussing a recommendation to council.
Questions?
So obviously, this doesn't apply to existing structures, but is there a possibility of any incentives for existing structures to become compliant with this? Because it's pretty expensive to do this.
What do you mean it doesn't, if you lose 100 square feet of your roof, you have to replace the entire roof?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, there are some, if you're doing additions, if you're removing a certain amount of siding,
If you're repairing, it specifically says repairing, here's the.
Yep.
Shit, where's that? Structure hardening. It says if you are, sorry, I was just looking at it.
Yeah, so it is pretty strict, and that's, one of the reasons we want to go this
Whichever's less.
kind of concurrent process to try to get a state waiver. But we have to adopt this code without the state waiver under the timelines. And we could come back if we got the state waiver to go with
Alter
the
or repair the
less
roof.
restrictive
Yeah.
code.
It would be nice if you did that to your house, like to bring it up to code, you could somehow communicate that to your insurance company, which would be totally disinterested in this.
They're not gonna give you a credit, though. They're not gonna lower your rates ever.
No, my rates just doubled last year.
And if you introduce all this stuff and you do all this work, they're not gonna be like, great job, here's it half.
Yeah, they're not gonna do that.
No.
Yeah, and I think, what we've heard is that insurance companies are actually going to potentially require even more restrictive stuff than the state code. So it's steps in that direction, unfortunately.
But like some of these things like fire rated glass, that's really expensive stuff.
Why did the town add in from the roof coverings, the addition of 100 square feet of roof surface area to whichever is less, 25% or 100 square feet?
I don't think we added that from the state code. Are you looking at the red line?
I'm looking at the red lines. It's bolded. I just assumed that bolded meant it was being added by staff.
No, I don't think so in this case. I think that's in there from the state code. You might be looking at the last exhibit, which is Mitch's markup that we're trying to get the waiver on.
That's what I'm looking at, Mitch's markup. So I see crossed out lines, I see bolded text, I see underlined and bolded text.
Yeah.
So which one is Mitch's red lines?
It's the underline text.
Anything that's underlined. So items that are just bolded are not Mitch's.
They're not Mitch's, it's the underline text.
The underlined.
Yeah.
How did the other jurisdictions adopt this?
We've been in discussions with kind of all the jurisdictions in the Eagle Valley, and some of them adopted the code as is. Some of them went through the variance process to do a California building code that was tested. Mitch wasn't as excited about the California building code because it's kind of still at the same level of structure hardening, and there's difficulty getting materials to match that requirement. And so that's why he would like to go through the variance process to try to get a more reasonable kind of structure hardening program to be more similar to what we currently have in our fire mitigation requirements.
Has there been any discussion of applying this new code just to the wildlife urban interface? Or is this a blanket?
So this is a discussion item for the town council. There is a map that the state did, and basically the map identifies high, medium, and low wildfire risk areas. And so, as you'd imagine, a lot of the Hill District is in the high fire district or fire risk area, but then there are big sections of town that include kind of the downtown area, they include South Side, they include Willits, that aren't shown as a risk. So it'd be a discussion item for the town council as to whether they only want to apply this up in the high risk area, or if they would like to apply it townwide. Our current wildfire mitigation requirements are townwide, but you know, it might be logical to only apply these increased requirements in the high risk area.
Okay.
Did the town arborist weigh in on the 10-inch DBH
Yeah.
requirement in the immediate zone? And if so, why did he not specify different tree types and different sizes associated?
In the markup that is attached for the waiver, he made some adjustments in there as well that would be requested for a waiver from the state board. I think he generally believes we can work with the current code that's from the state, but he would like a little more flexibility, so that's what we would ask as part of the state board waiver.
Does the town have any plans to do some fire mitigation on kind of the urban wildlife interface?
Yeah, we've had some programs actually going for the last couple of years.
Okay.
And we've got some funding for some additional projects that Chris Beiser is working on.
Yeah, so
No
this,
specifics.
yeah, this fall we did a fire mitigation and slash piles up on Basalt Mountain. So that area right up there now has, I don't even know how many slash piles they have, but those have to wait 2 years before they can be dealt with. So that portion, and then we did put some more, some mitigation on that hillside, basically, from the previous fire. So like the weebles that you see there, and some seeding to try and get some things to grow there. And then we do have a partnership with the Wildfire Collaborative on addressing different areas of town. So there'll be some more opportunities this summer where we'll have some volunteer groups come out and help us with some of that work, so.
And so are those mitigation efforts, will those be reflected in state mapping? If, say, you wanted to choose to only do this in high areas, does that work kind of affect that mapping, or would that be a whole other step for the town to take on, like its own mapping, develop a high?
Yeah, that would be another step for the town if we wanted to. The state is going to revisit the map that they did in 3 years, is my understanding. That's kind of the directive that they've got.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that the town couldn't go through and have it mapped on our own. But then the state has to accept your map.
Right.
If we do this, could we post the maps that are applicable to Basalt on our website so people know where they are?
Yes.
And I think, for where I live, I think for actually anybody, if you were evacuated during Lake Christine, you're probably in the high risk. That would include me and probably you, Mike.
Yeah, I didn't live there during that time. I lived somewhere else where I got evacuated, but yeah. I would imagine I'm in the high zone.
while we're on this tangent, are there funds available to help people with the cost of removing trees? I say that because I have friends in Sangamon County that receive funds to encouraging them that they could use or help pay for cutting a certain amount of trees off their property.
Well, I don't know of any direct, for a tree removal. We do have, we are partnering with Eagle County, I think it's in June, for a chipping program to happen so that people would be able to dispose of anything that's on their property. And that would be cost-free. Eagle's actually paying for that for the entire town of Basalt, not just what's in Eagle County. And the flyer is right behind you, that I'm staring at.
We participate in the Eagle Valley Wildfire Collaborative and the Roaring Fork Valley Wildfire Collaboratives, given that we're in both counties and both jurisdictions. And there's been discussion at the Eagle County Wildfire Collaborative that the state is potentially working on, additional funding, but they're not there yet.
I will say that the wildfire collaboratives are doing a risk assessment for people, so they can go to rfvwildfire.org to get that risk assessment.
My perception is the bigger issue is what we currently have versus what's being built. And the areas such as Willits, where houses are very close to each other, it's now 20 plus years old, and 20 feet from my house is a spruce tree that's 50 feet high.
Sure.
And it's a matchstick, but it's not on my property, I can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
But this code tells you can't have that.
No, it says you can have it because it's greater than 10 inches DBH.
Okay, but any wildfire expert will come in and give an assessment of hardening your neighborhood, will tell you you need to cut that tree.
Sure.
And people don't want to do it, not just because of the cost, because they like the tree.
Yeah.
We have a real issue here with where we're currently living more so than what's being built. So that's where I think my effort really needs to be spent.
Any additional questions? As this is a public hearing, we'll open up at 7:52. If you're online, I will refer you back to James's comments from earlier. Please let us know. We'll give you about 30 seconds to a minute.
It can be within 5 feet, it can be touching your house, but if it's greater than 10 inch DBH, you technically can point to that as part of the code.
Seeing as we have nobody making any comments, we'll close the public hearing at 7:53. I'll open it up for commissioner comments.
As painful as it is to think about this, it is a good idea. And it's expensive, but, being evacuated in Lake Christine, I was just lucky my house didn't burn down. So, in reading this, I was contemplating, doing this to my own house, which is really expensive.
Yeah.
So I'm all in favor of it.
I can speak very direct about what the insurance companies are doing, and it is predatory. How the town adopts this will have a direct effect on many of the HOAs and communities and their financial feasibility and requirements to even maintain insurance, and therefore property values. There is true leverage that the insurance companies are using as a part of not only the state adoptions, but our ability to point back to the local jurisdiction adoptions as that last line of defense against their leverage in just dropping us as carriers.
Yeah, I agree with that. I had a client who purchased a outdoor hospitality property near Grant Lake, and as part of the agreement in order to get insurance, he had to cut 150 trees down. This was 3 or 4 years ago, and those sorts of issues by insurance companies is only going to continue, particularly facing a historic drought this summer. So this is sorely needed. And personally, I would like to see some initiatives to encourage homeowners to start taking action in their homes, not just through the landscaping, but also through rooftops, et cetera. If we could find financial incentives at the state or county level or something along those lines, I think that would be very beneficial to our community.
Yeah, I mean, this community especially is particularly vulnerable because we burned once already, and it could very easily happen again.
Mike, any comments?
I agree that the risk is very real. I mean, the town has gone through it in the last 10 years, and we've seen it. I think, we just talked about trying to get affordable housing units, and the cost of this, if it's wide throughout the entire town, and how that affects the possibility of making any of that pencil as a developer. It's kind of they go against each other to a certain degree. I do think safety is obviously number one priority. I think the town should consider adopting this only in certain locations, I guess, versus the entire community.
Yeah.
I agree with Mike. I think that's delineating those boundaries is important to provide the specificity for where the real danger is versus where a good practice is.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
That being said, do we have a motion? Do we want to make that part of our motion, or just as a recommendation for council to?
I think that's a good idea. Recommendation to approve to council with delineated boundaries within the town adoption.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Last item then is commissioner comments and staff updates.
So your next meeting will be May 5th, and we've got Parcel 9, Cypress Meadows final plan application that you'll be reviewing on that evening, and then also another Eagle County referral on a more significant application than you saw this evening, the Fields application.
Back.
Yeah, it's back, and so.
Yeah, James, I won't be at the 5th. That's my kid's graduation from from college. my third college graduation.
No mas.
One left.
One left.
Other staff updates are tomorrow's Earth Day, and so there'll be activities out in the park here, and it'll be a full afternoon of festivities, so we encourage anybody to check it out. And the other update is the Jadwin final plan application has been submitted and deemed complete, so you'll be seeing that come around again in a month and a half or so.
Cool.
The chipping program was already mentioned. Additionally, yard waste collection is occurring at Albany Park and also at Wildwood Park. So bring your yard waste. We have posters around town. Also, information is located on the website if you need help about what is and is not accepted. Not a town of Basalt update, but the city of Aspen at the Rio Grande Recycle Center is accepting skis. If you're looking to properly dispose of and recycle skis, you can do that right now at the Rio Grande Recycle Center.
In that vein, is the town gonna do another big electronic cleanup recycle day that we did?
That's the hope. I believe that's scheduled for June.
Yeah, we haven't nailed down the date yet because they're resurfacing the Basalt
Parking
High
lot.
School parking lot, and we're trying to work around that because that is really the best location
When you
for
do
that.
get a date, let me know. I can let the environmental club know before we break for the summer if they wanna volunteer and give you some help.
Great.
I need to know that too. I've got a whole pile.
Yeah, I know.
Fantastic last year.
I have a vacuum I've been carrying around events.
I've got a 36-inch tube TV.
They're
See, Bill, this
heavy.
goes back to your comment about, the vacuum cleaner repair place. If we had one.
If we had one, we could
Yeah, I've
get
just
get
been lugging it
problem.
around with
gotten
me.
it fixed.
We also have coffee with the mayor at Mountain Heart this Thursday at 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. So if you want to go and meet with the mayor, I'll be there as well.
And the town manager. Awesome. If there are no more comments or updates,
Motion to adjourn.
do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned at 8 o'clock on the dot.
Thank you,
Thanks, guys.
everyone.